Star Wars 7x7 episode 2955. It's Saturday, which often means that it's a What to Watch Now episode, and there's a new episode of the High Republic show that's just been released. So we're going to talk about the highlights from that episode, which includes a preview of Phase 2 of the High Republic Mega Ginormous Storytelling Initiative. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So, Christina Ariel has hosted yet another fun show, and this one's actually a little bit shorter than they generally run. This one's only about 18 minutes or so, and they've got some stuff that's new, but some stuff that's already been, previously released and talked about. Well, I'll sum it all up for you, basically. So, the High Republic show happens in segments, and the standard segments were present in this particular show. There's usually a rundown of High Republic events that had happened since the previous show. This one they did it a little bit differently in that they tried to sum up Phase 1 of the High Republic in under 3 minutes, a task that even Christina Ariel, in her very witty way, kind of implied, yeah, this is going to be impossible, and they did it, but it really kind of lets you know, if you've read a lot of the High Republic stories, and I think we've covered most of the High Republic stories here on the show, just how deep and broad the High Republic Phase 1 really is in terms of its storytelling. Like, for all the amazing summarizing they did in that little video, there's just so much left out, and necessarily so, to get it under 3 minutes. But yeah, it's amazing how much story they've told within Phase 1. The second segment of the show tends to be a fan-focused one, or a props, a builds, it's some sort of thing like that. And this was no exception. So it was a flashback to Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim and a costume contest that was held for the High Republic, which was viewed and judged by authors from Phase 1 of the High Republic. So Justina Ireland and Claudia Gray and Cavan Scott and Charles Soule and Daniel Jose Older, all 5 of them were there checking things out and posing with Geode and the rest of the High Republic Jedi that were on display there. So yeah, they all did a fantastic job with the cosplay, but they didn't actually show the judging of the winners or anything like that. They just showed mingling and interacting and photos and whatnot. Then they move on to the roundtable discussion, and this is usually the meatiest portion of the High Republic show. This was no exception. They have the 3 new High Republic authors, Tessa Gratton and George Mann and Zoraida Cordova, talking about their particular novels and about what we might expect, what they can hint at for Phase 2 of the High Republic. Now, I think the most intriguing aspect out of this whole roundtable came from Tessa Gratton right near the top of it, when Christina Ariel asked all 3 of the authors what they're excited about in terms of Phase 2. Tessa talked about the secret history of the Star Wars universe and stories that were either lost or actively suppressed. That's the phrase she actually used, actively suppressed. And I love me some secret history stuff, so, this sounds really intriguing to me. George Mann sounds like he's shaping up to be the Cavan Scott of Phase 2, where he's going to be interested in developing new characters and then deciding whether they're actually going to survive through Phase 2 of the High Republic. So yeah, there's that. And Zoraida's answer kind of fell in between the 2 of theirs, where she's very excited to be diving into the past and also seeing where their imaginations take them, but she doesn't necessarily rule out the possibility of killing off characters, it sounds like. Now, they also got to share a little bit about their own novels. Convergence is the adult novel from Del Rey that's going to be launching Phase 2, or more specifically Wave 1 of Phase 2. And I'll jump ahead just the slightest bit and say that during the final segment of the High Republic show, which is the reveals segment, they did a sort of reveal, but it was revealed at San Diego Comic-Con, and I actually put a tweet thread up with the transcription of this. The crawl for Phase 2 of the High Republic, and in the crawl there's a mention of a forever war between 2 planets, and it's actually sort of previewed in Phase 1 because it's part of the flashback section of the novel Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. Anyway, that forever war is apparently a big focus of Convergence, where it's been going on for several years with no apparent end in sight. So the Jedi and the Republic team up and send people there to try to help with the crisis. One of those people is Gala Natai. Hopefully I have pronounced that right. So Gala is a Jedi Knight and is very excited to be out there, wants to be adventuring out in unknown worlds and whatnot. And so this is a very exciting proposition for her to be out there and active, and that's great. There's also Axel Greylark, who is the son of Chancellor Greylark, who Zoraida describes as a bit of a space rake, if you will, kind of a Lando-ish character who suddenly is in a situation where he starts to have to take things seriously and prove that he can step up. Then there's Path of Deceit, that's Tessa Gratton's YA novel, and that one is also hinted at, it seems, in the opening crawl for Phase 2 of the High Republic, where there's reference to a threat that's about to emerge on Dalna, the planet Dalna, and the planet Dalna is where this mysterious Path of the Open Hand sect, I guess, of Force Force followers, if you will, have settled. These are the people who want the Force to be free and have people leading them, including the Mother, who is sort of the voice of the Force for the Path of the Open Hand, and the Herald, who is, according to the discussion, handling the day-to-day aspects of the operation of the Path of the Open Hand, and they are kind of partners in this venture until they're not. And one would assume that drama then thus ensues. And one of the acolytes for this Path of the Open Hand is a person named Marda Rowe. One would presume that this is an ancestor of Markion Rowe, and is all in on this whole Path of the Open Hand business. So yeah, that's what we know more or less. I mean, there are a couple other things, like they're interested in the freedom of the Force and clarity and balance and this sort of thing. And ultimately, what happens in Path of Deceit is that there's a Jedi Knight and a Padawan who show up. Is it a Jedi Knight? No, it's a Jedi Master and a Padawan, excuse me, who show up on Dalna because they're investigating the loss of stolen Force artifacts. And so, again, drama must ensue from there. And George Mann is writing Quest for the Hidden City, which is the middle grade novel. He took some time to explain what the deal is with Pathfinder teams, where they're going to have either a Jedi Master and a Padawan or a Jedi Knight and a Padawan, along with a team from the Republic, which is usually a pilot and a medic and a couple of droids, including these EX communications droids that we've talked about in previous episodes, where they are going to essentially build the communications relay network that will help connect worlds throughout the frontier of the galaxy, which seems like they're using the phrase frontier and outer rim kind of interchangeably. And Quest for the Hidden City seems to deal with a Pathfinder team that has gone missing and the investigation and search for those Pathfinder folks. That story does not appear to be referenced in the opening crawl, unless there's more to it that would tie it in that we just don't know yet. So that pretty much covers the big moments of the conversation between Christina and the three new authors in the High Republic for Phase 2. Then there's the reveal section at the end of the show, which I, sort of talked a little bit about with the opening crawl situation. There were also a couple of new variant covers for High Republic comics that were shown, which are cool. And then artwork-wise, they also introduced concept art for this Axel Greylark character that we just mentioned, and also another Jedi who is part of Quest for the Hidden City. That is Salandra Sho, and George Mann is very excited about her because she's kind of a different Jedi in that she says she would rather be the shield than the sword, and she actually uses a shield instead of a lightsaber, or more than a lightsaber, in the work that she does as a Jedi. So it'll be interesting to see how that particularly plays out. So there you go. That is a high-level look at the High Republic show's most recent episode. And if you want to watch the whole thing, I will link it at the blog post for the show's episode at sw7x7.com. It'll be in the show notes as well if you want to check out that whole thing. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.